Hey again, YouTube. Not Jump with Machete back. Not a review. Tenchi, thank you. Scab, you too. I've had a lot of people ask for another. Yeah, it's great except for the zombies, and it's been one of those kind of messed up times where, first off, dealing with the shoulder, all that shit. But yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on. Little bit in my head, all that fun stuff. A little bit on the outside. I'm in a new position, all those fun things. But I realized that I kind of showed a short earlier this year uh, about something that I had used on one of the escapades. And I was like, all right, well, you know what? Let's tell the story that kind of goes with that one. And the machete, knife, this is the CRKT Canon in half a chance. And I showed the chopping and everything. Well, I was actually called out to deal with an infestation. Um, it's rare that I'm actually going to use that term because Zeds are kind of, y'all know, if you're watching my stories, if you've seen some of the past ones, if you've heard me talk about them, there's a bunch of different things. And there's a bunch of different shit that people who have to deal with this shit deal with. Mr. W, that kind of shit. Anyways, infestation in this place, it was definitely the right term because it was unique. Now, um, somebody actually ended up making a movie sort of about something similar. And actually, Roanoke Games does really good analyses because the man's got a really good bio background. Where my background is psychology and a bit more mechanical shit. But yeah, Roanoke does like really good analyses of this kind of thing. He even the Pontypool incident. Go check out his channel. It's really fucking good. Anyways, got called out, and this is actually to a little place not that far from here called Canmar. And you know the standard shit. I basically get sent out, and I've got no brief. Usually, it something happens, something sparks off, somebody's unaware, and I get sent out and got to figure out shit on site. Well, I kind of lucked out in this case because there happened to be a scientist on site. He was an entomologist from Germany, and his dad, I guess, was I can't remember exactly what he served in, but he served in the West German Special Forces, and I cannot remember the name of it. But his son, the guy I ended to work with, and I'm not going to say his real name, but I'm going to call him Hans, because he heard about one of the professors I used to work with, who was named Hans, and apparently he knew him and hated him too. Anyways, Hans, he was called in because this was an infestation, an entomological infestation. So I got called in on site. And every once in a while, I'll kind of, you gotta clean your gear and shit. And some of my stuff was goopy. Some things you gotta clean off. Like, you gotta soak it in like bar salt or something like that for a few days. I was actually thinking of getting the sonic cleaner for some of the knives. Like a fair size one, but well, big enough to put in something like this and just run like the cleaning action and stuff. So I didn't have my regular loadout, but I always have backups. Typically, I'll carry like a folder, a karambit, a big blade, either big knife or machete or something like that. Y'all know I love machetes. I'm glancing over there because I've got the bag of blades and I got the bucket of blades. And yes, there'll be more reviews coming out. I'm going to try and get back into the swing of things. Like I said, Tench, Scab, all y'all. Everyone that's been encouraging me to get back into this, thank you, because I'm going to try. I'm not saying whether or not I'm going to succeed, but I'm going to get back into this. But yeah, I've got a few things that I usually carry. The Priscilla actually comes out quite often with me. She's hanging on the wall. Y'all know Josh. Actually, I've got something that he designed that I got from Volpit's training that has actually really helped with the shoulder because it's just this perfect size. to kind of do that. And look, I got my range of motion back. There's a lot of pain, a lot of weakness still in the shoulder, and this one's still kind of messed up. Uh, Still got full movement, but yeah. Anyways, story. um, I had some gunky stuff, so I went with my backup kit. And my backup kit in this case was actually, I got it laid out here, and I'll go on why. Typically, I don't have a firearm with me, but my backup kit was nice and simple. I had just a simple combat knife. This is a Smith & Wesson. I actually don't own a K-bar. They are harder to get up here. With like, some people love them, some people hate them. So typically, I'll go with a combat knife that's fairly decent. This is a Smith & Wesson MP Spec Ops. But yeah, my bags are typically like, each bag is going to be a couple $100 worth of knives at least. But that's what I had in there, and I had my cut as my offhand backup, because in this case we did end up using firearms, pistols specifically, and of course I had, my big boy was the half chance, because some of the bags are kind of designed for a little bit closer quarters, and that's what this one really was. If I get briefed beforehand, I can usually try and pick something, and I usually have like a just in case, like longer, like boom boom, or one of the bigger Imakasas, or something a little bit bigger, so I have some reach. The spear sometimes comes, and sometimes I'll go with a little bit shorter, like a pig sticker or something like that. Anyways, blah 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 blah. Got caught up to this one, had a little bit of an insight, and so we were at kind of a pickup point. Usually we end up going to like a school or like a local community center or something like that, or coffee shop, doesn't really matter. But this one was just outside of town, and because typically if something happens in town, I get called in a lot faster. The Thunder Bay fungal infection, cordyceps infection, that we ended up just basically kind of blanketing the area with antifungals and sulfur powder. That's an example of kind of, you act a little bit faster. Anyways, this one, out of town, get called up, and I meet up with Hans. The only reason I call him that is because Dr. Hans kind of bugged him. So, anyways, meet up with Hans, and we started talking, and two experts in diverse fields, you're gonna start talking back and forth and trying to figure out what's going on. So all the information I had is we had this infection in an area that, semi-rural. It's a smaller town, but it's not that far from larger population centers. So we really want to be careful that infection and like I said, in this case, infestation doesn't spread. So Hans and I are back and forth, and I let him know, okay, well, this is the information I got. It seems to sound like we've got some sort of fast-acting infection, so likely this isn't supernatural, which was not something that even occurred to him, because, yeah, some of these are. The Thule Fools, for example, that's one of the easiest ones. There was an incident on White Ave that involved, I think it was a home gun. I don't think I've told you about that one yet, but I'll do it. I'll double check, make sure I haven't already told you about that one. But yeah, anyways, I figured it probably wasn't supernatural, so probably something a lot more viral or fungal, or something along those lines. Rabies is a big one. Everyone's like, yeah, it's rabies. Yeah, it's carried in the saliva and everything, and it's fucking terrifying. But in this case, it seemed like you were also getting it from scratches, and some of the people who didn't actually, there was multiple stages. First stage, almost like a first instar, was just your basic infection. People kind of going nuts. You lose the cognitive ability. All right, here's a progression. Stage one, you kind of lose cognitive ability. You're unable to really focus, kind of like just there. You're unable to sort of process stimuli in a normal manner for people. It was more reactive. Um, Stage 2, lesions and fissures started appearing on the skin. Um, Parts of the skin would actually slough off. Really gross. And then the dermis would harden underneath. Is it the dermis or the epidermis? Anyways, the just below the skin. Maybe that's epidermis. I don't know. I'm not a biologist. Rono, tell me if you're watching. But yeah, the skin would actually, the top layer of skin would slough off, and then underneath would actually harden up quite a bit. The hands would actually lose their digits. Basically, these ones. And I'm not just doing that to have fun with it, but yeah, these ones were pretty much the only ones that kind of stayed, and a little bit of a vestigial thumb that kind of, sort of, it's not a very good representation of it, but not that far off, really. Would actually kind of, the thumb would just kind of reset down here so that it would just kind of come out like that. Hardening of like the joints, so there was movement, but you couldn't really, anyways. Stage 3, people would usually, about 50% of them would not go into stage 3. YouTube doesn't like when I say it, but yeah. Most people wouldn't make it into stage 3, but stage 3 would, like, usually people who are in stage 3, if they were out and about, they would disappear for a period of time. We would see them in stage 4, and the only way we could actually identify them usually was clothing, if there was any jewelry around their neck, or IDs. The clothing was posthumous usually. IDs, same thing. Jewelry. Stage 3 typically involved a instar, a metamorphosis of sorts. Dark area, not super cold, usually kind of humid, kind of like a root cellar that had a leak. It's someplace that honestly you can find mold if you really wanted to. And then stage 4 was what we had to deal with. And that was why Hans had been brought in, was someone had saw stage 4. There might have been a stage 5 beyond that, but we really didn't want to get to that stage. So, yeah. Hans was an entomologist. As soon as he saw video and some photos, and God, I wish I could show that shit to you. They're kind of cool looking. They're freaky as fuck, but kind of cool looking. Not much shorter than me. About here, yeah. So call it 5'8", 5'6", 5'8", somewhere thereabouts. The skin had kind of hardened in almost like a plate. The eyes were black, not multifaceted, which was something I thought was kind of interesting after the fact. It gets freaky. Anyways, the shoulder joints had lost, maybe they had frozen shoulder, had lost a lot of the ability to do this, so they were more in front. And yeah, you can kind of see where this is going. Elongated, and it was sort of like it had, do I have anything that I can kind of show you? Well, actually, y'all haven't seen this one. Yeah, I haven't reviewed it yet, but not that far off, truthfully. About like that, a little bit smaller, but almost that thick. Kind of between this and this, size wise. About that in length, pretty close to that in length, with a vestigial, like I said, a little spike, so kind of like that. Yeah, not bad. Puncturing, no serrations, nothing like that. We ended up finding out why. But yeah, so Hans and I ended up kind of going back and forth watching the videos. It took a couple hours, and in that time, let me put this back in the bucket. In that time, we actually had assistants coming in. Yay! Because it's very rare for me to get additional assistance, but you have, like I said, two experts in a diverse field, and they're both saying this is going to be bad. So, yeah, sorry, you're going to see me stretch or try and pull my shoulders back and stuff like that, because there's still, like I said, pain. But yeah, anyways, we get a few extra guys, mostly from, well, there's a couple guys from Cold Lake, and there's a couple guys from Princess Pat's, and they were subject matter experts. Let's just put it that way. They were read in. Is probably one of the easier ways to put it. And so yeah, we did as much of a brief as we could, and then the gentleman, thankfully realizing that civilians, but not, like, he had training as well. Hans had a little bit of military training, and he actually was a veteran, and I have training, but I'm not a veteran. I have to put that out there. Some people have been asking, oh, how long did you serve? No, I just got a lot of training. I never served. Thank you to those who have and who are. Okay. Because, yeah, I don't think the Canadian military wants me. Anyways, we'll take a left turn into the storyline. We were actually given, as Roanoke likes saying, force multipliers. This is not one. This is an air gun. It's actually a really, really cheap one, which is kind of a fun one. Someone's going to ask. This is the Umarex DX-17. It's a simple, smooth barrel, very inaccurate, BB gun, and it's spring operated. So one thing I don't like about it is you can only put the safety on, which is this right here, after it's been cocked. I really don't like that. I like having a gun that can have the safety on, as my rifle and stuff like that do, at all times. Yes, usually it doesn't fully engage because it's not cocked. Go watch Forgotten Weapons with Ian to get more information on how that works. But yeah, basically this one is, it's actually kind of a pain to run because you have to press that forward, and that's got quite a bit of spring power, and then now it is unsafe. So yeah, but yeah, we were given force multipliers, as Roanoke calls them, and thankfully I have used them before. They were Canadian issue, so I was actually given a Browning High Power, which is a very nice gun, and I kind of want one. Currently not able to get that. I don't go into politics, so we're not even going to talk about that. And Hans had the same thing, and he had experience with Glocks and H&Ks. So, you know, not too far off. Anyways, force multipliers, they go away. And it is unsafe, and it's also unloaded. But I will have to safely discharge it later because the spring continually under tension weakens the spring. Blah. So yeah, there's 6 of us, and the location that the infestation had started was this farmstead. It's actually a really nice one. It's a cattle farmstead. So they had moved the cattle out, and the infestation we found was actually in the milking barn. Lots of moisture was in there, but it was nice and cool, and there were areas in there where it was actually quite dark. Very, very large. I don't know if you guys have seen like very large like cattle barns, especially ones that have milking apparatuses in them, but a lot of them have walls that'll actually move and open. It's really cool. It's really good airflow in there. It's really nice because we can have hot, humid summers. It's Canada, so you know, it's not like Florida where it's getting to like 121, but you know, about 100 Fahrenheit, 40-degree Celsius days with like this summer was horrible. We had 80 to 90% humidity, and we're supposed to be semi-arid, so that sucked. But yeah, this place, really, really nice. Good airflow. eventually. It was late summer. It was a hot summer, but it was also kind of a dry summer. This is a couple of years back. Um, and we hadn't quite reached the drought, which was 2 or 3 years ago. So hot, but not super, super dry. Anyways, we go into this one farm, and they had moved as many cows away as they could. Um, not, it did not jump species, sort of. None of the cows were infected. Any cows that were scratched, punctured, bit. Fucking mandibles. Fucking mandibles, man. I don't like anything that's got more than four legs, so insects do not. Nor arachnids. But yeah, seeing something my size with fucking like lobster face, essentially. Maybe they should have called an oceanographer instead of entomologist. Anyways, entomologist, very helpful. So yeah, any of the cows had actually been, unfortunately, euthanized. Yes, animals were harmed, but and it actually bugs me quite a bit too. Anyways, back to the story. I'm jumping around a little bit. It's been a while since I told the story, and if you guys have watched me, you know I jump around a little bit. Thank you. Welcome to the inside of my head. Nothing is linear. We get back to the path eventually. But yeah, so we're on site, and like I said, really nice farmhouse is off to one side. A couple of grain silos, mostly for feed. They actually had quite a bit of property for pasture land, and then they had some fenced off paddocks and stuff like that. They had, what were they, Holsteins? Right, Holsteins, and then they had Herefords. Herefords are typically meat. I think Holsteins, they're the black and white ones, I think. Comment below. Milk, mostly. Those ones are chunky. These ones they look skinny. They look like their hips kind of poke out. But that's because all the energy goes to milk. Where with these guys, most of the energy goes to meat. Anyways, yeah, really, really nice farm. Kind of wish I could buy it. No, the family's still there. And they don't watch this because they already know. Anyways, we knew something was up. It was some of the farmhands and some of the locals that lived. Like the nearest farm was about. Sometimes it'll be like a kilometer between neighbors. Sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less. It really depends on where you are. For instance, the farm in Saskatchewan. The closest neighbor is the next grid road over, in, and then down. So they're like a kilometer, roughly. So 40% of a mile, 45% of a mile, somewhere thereabouts. I'm not sure what that is in feet. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so they had some neighbors that were, like, their farmhouse was actually right close to the paddock. About, I'd say, 300 or 400 meters away from the barn. And some of the farmhands there, and then some of the farm residents, the family, were where we'd kind of gotten the video from, and all of that. Best estimate, about 30. Turns out the estimate was wrong. I don't know how long the infestation had or how long it really required to get as bad as it did. Especially with... I'm not very good at telling this story. I'm not very good at telling some of these stories. I don't like recalling some of them. Anyways. Nah. Safety blanket. We went into the barn, and it was really, really long. It felt like it was 500 or 600 meters long. It probably was only a couple hundred meters. But yeah, we knew that there was something in the back because the owners of the cattle had cameras on the inside so they could monitor the cows. You know, if anything kind of weird happened, every cow actually had an electronic tag in the ear, and it was set up so like as they walked um, through like the feedlots and stuff like that, the gates would actually automatically open and close. Maybe they needed to be milked, maybe they needed to be fed, maybe they needed, you know, like to be checked by the farmer or something like that. So it was a really amazing system. But he also had security cameras, and the security cameras actually kind of let us know that there was a little area in the back where the cameras had gone down a few days before, and it takes a little while in, I don't know, rural Alberta, but also it sometimes takes a little while to get a technician to come in and take a look at your systems. Farmer didn't have the tech expertise, so he had called someone in, and that someone had kind of realized something was weird, and that was how this came in. But the cameras themselves were what gave us the video images. The stills, if you're trying to get stills off of video footage, like if you try and do a still of me right now, parts of me are going to be blurry. That's kind of how it works. It's usually easier to just look at the video. Anyways, we had to go in there, and so there's fences everywhere, and there's resting mats and stuff like that. There's very big, like walkway. I'm sure there's a fancy word. If any of you guys have dairy farms, tell me what the main walkway where the cows sleep on either side, if that has a fancy name. But this farm was actually, it was really, really clean. Didn't smell. It smells like cows. Didn't smell too bad. But yeah, as we got towards the tail end, you could kind of smell cicadas. Really the only kind of smell I can kind of put in there. And now that I'm thinking back on it, that's actually starting to make a little bit more sense. Maybe I should update my report. Anyways, you smell insects. I don't really know how to put it. Go to like a terrarium or something like that, someplace that actually has insects. Like the Royal Alberta Museum used to have the insect room. I think actually it still does at the new location. But yeah, the insect room, there's that kind of smell to it. And it got stronger as we got closer. And so Hans and I are in the middle. The two gentlemen from Cold Lake were in front, and the two gentlemen, actually, one gentleman and one lady. I suppose nowadays I'm not supposed to assume gender. Anyways, the two folks, I'm just going to say folks from here on out. I had to go through training yesterday. There's a whole bunch of random shit. Anyways, the two folks from the Princess Pat's Canadian Light Infantry were behind this, and so we're going forward. Force multipliers in hand, pointed down to save, with orders not to point at anything. Honestly, if you want safety rules for firearms, go watch Brandon Herrera, because he's absolutely awesome at just reminding you guys, especially in his Darwin Awards, you know, the safety and everything. These are a little bit easier for safety. Maybe that's why I like them more. No, I do like firearms. Anyways, it's going to make me get this video flagged or get myself flagged. So as we're going along, I don't have anything that'll make that sound sort of a kind of dry leaves. No, dry sticks rubbing together. Not quite cricket clicks, but you know, I got some dry sticks over in the corner for artsy fartsy sake. But yeah, kind of that wood on wood sound. I had to fix a door, so I've got some shims, but something kind of like, I don't know if you guys can hear, but sort of like that. Anyways, we can start to hear that, and we're walking along, and I feel like I want to grab my safety blanket again. Kind of as you get closer, the smell got a little bit stronger, and we get to the only dark part in the barn, and the lights are smashed, which explains why the cameras got smashed, because if they were just smashing things in the ceiling, and there were carapaces, carapi, I'm not sure what the when a mommy bug and a daddy bug. No, when they go from grub to, I think it might be from, anyways, the outer shell. You know, I'm just gonna go with the cicada thing. Like the kind of a outside shell was still hanging from the top, and there were three. I don't really know what to call them. Oh, he had a long name for them. It was in Latin, and my Latin sucks. Um, Zombie mantids, sort of the only thing I can really think of. And the only really reason I'm thinking like zombies is because it's a sort of similar infection path, and they brought me in. But my portfolio has been expanded to include the weird fucking shit. Wait until I tell you about a cryptid that I saw, because holy fuck, it was cute and really angry. Anyways, yeah, so some sort of mantid, cicada mantid, the bugs. I'm just gonna fucking call them bugs. Yeah, bugs. Three of them in front of us, and if you guys have watched the video I did at the farm talking about the convention where you had some zombie apologists and stuff like that, policy is if it doesn't seem like it reasons, you attempt to reason once, and that's it. After that, we figure it out afterwards. So Hans, speaking in English, because we're in Canada, we figured English would be the easier language. Hello, can you understand us? And kind of a sort of like that noise before fucking coming at us. Getting told to move and having a big soldier shove you off to one side will make you fucking move. So, two in front, down and to the side, long rifles up, open fire, really bright. I don't know if you guys have ever fired a firearm in this wasn't really enclosed, but it was very dark. The muzzle flashes are very bright. You end up with purple spots all over your vision. It was short controlled fire. I don't even think they burst it. I think it was literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the first one kind of went down. The arm had actually kind of, like the shoulder area had been hit quite a bit. Didn't move side to side very fast, moved forward very fast, very fast. But it had been hit here a lot, so the arm kind of had come off mostly. The two behind started moving, and so I'm off to one side, literally, like, I'm gonna, again, this isn't real, but I'm kind of off to one side and just trying to stay behind the barrel. I thankfully fell behind and just kind of poking my head around. Not really gonna help or anything like that. Because I'm sorry, I had a 9mm pistol, and they had, 5.56, if I remember correctly. They probably would have been the C4 variant, I think. Canadian military, basically, it's an M60. It's an AR platform. They have the carbines. Shit, that comes back when you're trying to remember stuff. Holy fuck. No. Anyways, they opened fire. The two behind, thankfully, went down. I didn't have to actually use my force multiplier. I like how Roanoke says that. His channel's monetized, mine's barely monetized. So he really has to be careful. Like, he blurs shit and everything, and I would probably just show you shit and get my channel shut down. Fuck it, whatever. Anyways, 3 down. We're clear. Everyone swaps out magazines if they used anything. We approached them. Hans started looking at them, and one of the like I said, the one that got shot like here, the arm's mostly off. He literally goes, "I need a big knife," and so I hand him this. Um, I had to replace the strings afterwards because we got some gook on it. But yeah, I hand him this, and he hacks, just trying to see how strong, I'm going to call it a carapace, was. And actually, that's kind of why you'll see this girl's got a bit of usage marks on her. But yeah, he hacks to try and see kind of how strong it is, starting up here and then kind of going down. And we discovered that this will actually work just fine. The carapace kind of is holding in still muscle, but kind of, it was like they were transitioning between human and insect. So it was definitely an infection of some sort. Like I said, I don't know if there was like a stage beyond that, because like the video footage and stuff like that kind of, it must have been about 3 or 4 days from when the video first caught something, and then people started getting reported that they were, not around. And of course, you get missing persons, unfortunately, all the time in rural Canada, especially on, like, in areas around farms and stuff like that. It's really unfortunate. It's very similar to, people going missing in national parks and everything. But you'll get missing persons, and the RCMP will post something, or the local police department will, if it's, in or around a city that has their own PD. My Twitter feed usually has, I'll repost shit like that because, I get notifications, and it's like around an area where I've been or where something might have happened, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, so it had to have been 3 days since someone had been reported, and the first little bit kind of got caught on video, which was really just kind of blurry movement across the camera, that kind of shit. Anyways, yeah, so he's testing. We find out that it's mostly muscle, that it's kind of just sort of like if you took a bottle, a plastic bottle, and just kind of hardened it up a little bit. I don't know, pour hot wax on a bottle, watch it kind of like harden down, and then leave that wax on top. It kind of has a waxy layer and then kind of a hardness, but you can still, when it's got stuff inside, you can still kind of get through it. It's hard but brittle. That's sort of what I'm trying to say. But yeah, we find that out. He checks on the other 3. Meanwhile, at this point, I'm kind of blurry on who was doing what. But anyways, two folks stay with us. 2 folks go out, and flashlights on, looking around. We didn't have night vision goggles. I've never actually used them in that sort of capacity. I've only ever seen night vision monoscopes for hunting and stuff like that, so I had no experience with them. But we weren't given any. Flashlights, they go searching around, and as soon as one of them panned up, you could see more things on the ceiling. Some of them were occupied. Some of them were empty. There was the 30 was what we figured, just based on, like they had lost like something like 15 cows. And when you're thinking like a predator taking down a cow's not a small meal. But, like, and then are the people also a meal? But it turns out the people weren't a meal. They're using the people to breed, which sounds really gross. Not like that, you perv. Feel like the horror geek should have had, hell yeah. No, no. The transmission vector was through humans. I don't know the origin. Hans never figured it out, and the only thing we can figure is there might be some sort of cycle. Like I said, that cicada thing starts making a lot more sense. Like maybe over a certain period of time, something comes back. Oh, I just started realizing this is kind of like Jeepers Creepers. Ew. I really like Jeepers Creepers, by the way. 1, 2, and 3, they're really nice. I haven't seen the new one. I'm talking faster, so I'm trying to get through the story. This is the icky part. Some of those were occupied. So what usually happens in instances like that is you'll have some sort of shady government agency come in and, you know, take them down, and you end up with what fucking TV show was that? Buffy, where they turn like vampires and all of that stuff into soldiers. What fucking season was that? Anyways, if you're my age, you remember that. Or people like trying to turn raptors into weapons. Really, really dumb shit. Anyways, we'd all decided that that was a bad idea. So um, basically, through a little bit of lead poisoning, anything that was occupied and ended up being unoccupied, and we were able to do a little bit more investigation. Hans actually afterwards, because I can see sometimes when you submit a report to a government agency, such as the one I have to report to, thank you very much. Your report needs to corroborate with someone else's report if, you know, trust but verify. Sometimes you're actually able to utilize from technical reports in yours. See section A3 of form from report. It's really fucking irritating, but it's kind of like the APA system if it was just muddied up by government. Anyways, here's my citation needed. Anyways, yeah, figured there must have been some sort of multi-year cycle. The barn itself actually had a cistern, like a well underneath, and that was where it drew up the water. Water got filtered and basic treatment, so that it would be safe. Basically, so there'd be no microbes or lead or anything like that in the water, but then it could be used to water the cattle and crops and stuff like that. If you got a big enough well, it's kind of nice. But typically, well water needs to be tested. I've been to communities where the groundwater is unsafe to drink, and they'll actually put out a notice, or there'll be a boil water advisory, that kind of thing. I was in Fort Capel, and that actually happened there. Which, if you've never been to Fort Capel, it's absolutely gorgeous. Go to the Capel Valley. It's amazing. Just be aware there might be a ghost there who will call for you. Yeah, look up that local legends. It's really fun. Fort Capel, Saskatchewan. It's really amazing. Anyways, I'm going off topic. But yeah, pretty much figured that maybe there was like a nest or something, and that's kind of how they came up, because we found dirt, and the wellhead had kind of been pumped off. I guess the pump must have burnt out during the like time frame or something like that. Nobody really noticed. But yeah, the wellhead had kind of been bumped out. It's a little bit of dirt. So I figure something must have come up. It wasn't a very big hole though. It was like this is kind of the well hole, right? And the hole had been made maybe that much bigger. It's kitty wipes. I have cats again. But yeah, the hell is rattling around in here? I do not know. Anyways, say about like that. So not some huge couldn't come through, but I mean, like that'll fit a badger. Porcupine could fit through there. Not a huge one, but like not an African porcupine, but North American porcupine could fit through there. Some bobcats, you know. So kind of think something that big must have come through and been the first infection point. And the only thing we can kind of figure on is we're looking at local legends, and there is sort of a story of kind of like the Nahanni Valley, the Headless Valley, where people go there and they kind of disappear, but it's that kind of thing where they kind of come back like every 10 generations ago or something like that, or in the time of our ancestors, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, there wasn't really any concrete evidence because like it's stories, tales told through a generational kind of knowledge. So but yeah, anyways, that area ended up getting concreted. um, After we left, because yes, it ended up being a very simple kind of thing. I didn't actually have to use. I did have to use my force multiplier. I'm going to safely discharge this because I do not like having this spring under tension. So safety is off. I am currently pointing it into clothing. You might hear a discharge. Thank you. Now, this actually has. Yes, I just fanned myself. I just realized that. This will actually disengage the slide, which takes tension off the spring. If you actually want to see me review any of the air guns I actually have, let me know. But yeah, this is now safe completely, and it is unloaded. I actually did have to use my force multiplier on the GUIs in the ceiling. GUI's not a good name for them, but they were GUI. Just to make sure that they actually opened up. Because I think 4 magazines. Yeah, 4 magazines and a sidearm with 2 mags. So we just wanted to make sure that nothing had been left behind. The other thing was then going up, and this was actually kind of a cool thing. So this is a little gift from Hans. He sent it to me after the fact. This is the one he was carrying. He sent me a. This is a Jager Commando. I honestly think he probably bought it off like eBay or something like that because he didn't want to give up the one he had because he really liked it and his dad had bought it for him. But he basically took this thing, and it's fucking heavy, by the way. You could use this like a billy club. It would definitely hurt. I might actually smash a coconut with it, maybe. But yeah, anything that he wanted to like crack open, he literally used this like you were harvesting crabs. That's what it reminds me of, like crab claws and stuff like that. He would just kind of crack open the really fucking long finger and just kind of see. Anyways, when he wanted to make sure, he was using this to kind of poke the very bottom and GUIs. The liquid inside would gush out. It was disgusting. Honestly, I had a shower for like 3 hours afterwards. The local hotel had a really, really good hot water tank. And yeah, ended up getting a suite, which was really nice. I rarely get suites. But because we had we had Canadian Forces with us, so we had an expense account, which kind of worked out. Which normally that's not the way that kind of runs. Usually we would end up going to the nearest base or something like that, but fuck it. We were all covered in goop. We had kind of handed off the location to the next crew who had set up really big lights, and I guarantee there's goop in a jar somewhere and bits and pieces of this. And there's no guarantee that it's not in some weird fucking shady government warehouse 13 somewhere. But I definitely haven't dealt with this again like I did with Sarge. So, yeah, anyways. That made me sad. Anyways, sorry. That was the last. I just realized that was the last kind of raid except for the zombies I did for you guys with Sarge. And now I'm sad again. Give me a second. All right. So yeah, we handed everything off. UV lights. They had infrared cameras. They had wired up their own cameras with like they're kind of cute little, almost like GoPros that they literally have like a peel and stick on the back, but it's like a gel and they look fucking cool shit. I end up having to use my iPod, my phone, and my camcorder half the time. I don't even have like little cameras that I can mount to my chest or anything like that. And seriously, mounting this to my iPod's got like, it's breaking itself. Thank you, Apple. I can get maybe 20 minutes of footage on that. So if I put it on here and I'm just doing entrance, okay. But yeah, anyways, handed everything off. The essentially the Geek Squad, which was really nice. Kind of took everything over. We ended up getting decontaminated on site. Um, Thankfully, not with water from the well, which they sent a borescope down it just to see if there was anything else down there, and they literally concreted that up. I'm guessing they didn't find anything, but it's entirely possible there's something in the water. But yeah, that well is no longer under use. They actually have a monitoring, like a sniffer and stuff like that, that they put into the concrete hole. They opened it up, poured concrete, filled it back in. So I'm guessing it's under observation 24/7, probably. But that farm is still operational, and they actually make really nice ice cream. I'm not going to tell you the name of the farm so you don't bug them, but you can probably figure out if you know the location and if you know that farm, you can figure it out. That's about as far as I go, letting you guys know where shit happens. Except maybe about the time I was up in White Sands. We'll go. I think maybe that'll be the next one. I'll make a note. White Sands will be the next story. Anyways, yeah, we got to go off, and he gave me that, sent me that as a gift about a month or so later, with just some little handwritten reports and stuff like that. That actually had to go through Department Age because I never gave him my contact info. So whatever he wrote, I'm 90% certain. If any of it had been super important, it would have been redacted or just kept. He actually numbered the bottom of the pages and stuff like that. So, 3-page note. Maybe there was a 4th or 5th page. It didn't seem like it. There was a signature on the 3rd page, so that kind of shit. Basically, all he found in addition was that the local legends and stuff like that, and I had already submitted my report. And I guarantee those 3 pages got added to some archive fucking somewhere, maybe underneath the jar of goo. But he had found out that this was sort of like almost like an ovipositor, but instead of like injecting venom or anything like that, this would act like a hypodermic, very much like I had that, very much like this being hollow, and would inject like an RNA a virus that would just kind of change the body. And I guess the reason a lot of people didn't make it into the 3rd stage is organ failure. So that's kind of that was his hypothesis. Again, none of this has actually been confirmed or anything like that. So, but yeah. So I guess with the moral of the story, there isn't one. Honestly, if you see a fucking 6-foot tall bug and it's not from Klendathu and you don't have a marauder, okay, that series got really weird and really bad, but also really good at the same time. So bad and so good. Would you like to know more? Anyways, yeah. Can't believe I just made a Klendathu joke. Anyways, that's it. It's about all I have to share. Again, thanks Tenchi, Scab, all y'all that have been reaching out, just double checking that I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm not great, but I'm okay. I'm still alive. I'll keep putting out stuff. It is not going to be any sort of regular schedule or anything like that. Channel grows, channel grows. Channel doesn't grow, channel doesn't grow. All y'all that watch, I appreciate the fuck out of you. Yes, I swear a little bit. But yeah, it's not really anything else I can kind of say, except for the standard, hey, guess what? Cannon's great, except for the insects that infect you and turn you into some sort of weird-ass zombie. Stay sharp, guys.